I'm 79 years old, and yesterday I was told my sister died. We hadn't spoken in 40 years, and hearing her name after all that time felt like someone knocking on a door I had boarded up and forgotten about. The woman on the phone spoke softly, carefully, as if my age meant I might break apart if she used the wrong tone. I thanked her because that's what you do when you don't know what else to say. After the call ended, I sat at my kitchen table longer than I meant to, staring at the same spot on the wall. The house was quiet in a way that felt final, not peaceful. At my age, death doesn't surprise you anymore, but this one didn't feel like death alone. It felt like the end of something that had been unfinished for most of my life. I'm talking now because there's no one left who needs to hear this from me. Most of the people who shared those years are gone, and the rest have their own memories that don't include this part of me. When you get old enough, you stop trying to explain your choices and start looking at them plainly. I don't expect forgiveness, and I'm not asking for understanding. I just know that carrying this alone doesn't make sense anymore. Losing my sister yesterday didn't open a wound so much as remind me it was always there. I had told myself for decades that time had taken care of it. What time really did was make it quiet enough to ignore. We grew up in a small house where privacy didn't exist, and everyone knew everyone else's moods. My sister was younger than me, louder than me, quicker to speak and slower to let things go. I was the opposite, the kind of person who believed silence meant strength. Our parents worked long hours, so we learned early how to manage ourselves. We argued like siblings do, over small things that felt enormous in the moment. Most of the time we moved on without talking much about it. We assumed closeness was permanent, something you couldn't lose unless you meant to. That assumption followed me for much longer than it should have. I left home first and took a job that paid steadily and asked very little about how I felt. She stayed closer, married young, had children before I really understood what adulthood was. In those early years, we talked on the phone regularly, though never very deeply. We shared updates, not thoughts, and called it connection. I told myself that was enough, that closeness didn't need effort once it was established. Looking back, I can see how much we avoided. We both believed there would be time later for the harder conversations. Later felt certain, almost guaranteed. The argument that ended everything wasn't dramatic or explosive. It was about our mother, about responsibility and money, and who was doing more. I felt accused, she felt abandoned, and neither of us listened long enough to understand the other. We said things that weren't cruel, just careless, and careless words can last longer than angry ones. When I hung up the phone, I remember feeling tired more than anything else. I told myself I'd call her back after things cooled down. That call stayed in my head for a long time before it disappeared entirely. At first, the silence felt temporary and even reasonable. I was busy with work, trying to stay useful and respected. Days turned into weeks, and no one forced the issue. Each passing month made it feel more awkward to reach out. I told myself she could call too, which was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. Pride has a way of disguising itself as fairness. Life kept handing me reasons to delay, and I accepted every one of them. Silence slowly became routine, and routine began to feel permanent. Years went by without anything dramatic to mark the distance between us. There were holidays with cards instead of voices and birthdays acknowledged late or not at all. When people asked about my sister, I kept my answers short and changed the subject. I didn't want to reopen something I had already sealed. I convinced myself that not talking meant not hurting. What I didn't understand was that absence does its own kind of harm. It works slowly, without noise, until one day you realize how much has been lost. I got married, raised children, built a life that looked full and respectable from the outside. I worked long hours and came home tired, enough not to ask myself many questions. My children knew they had an aunt, but only as an idea. I thought that was normal, that families drift and adjust. I believed providing was more important than being present. I didn't notice how narrow my world was becoming because it all happened gradually. I told myself I was doing what needed to be done. When my wife became ill, something inside me shifted, though not enough to change my habits. Watching her struggle changed how I thought about certainty and control. During long nights in the hospital, my sister crossed my mind more often. I imagined calling her, hearing surprise or hesitation in her voice. I even held the phone once, standing alone in a hallway that smelled like disinfectant. I put it away because I was exhausted and afraid of opening something I couldn't manage. Fear doesn't shout, it reasons with you quietly. After my wife died, people encouraged me to reconnect with family. I nodded, thanked them, and did nothing. Grief made every effort feel heavier than it needed to be. I told myself I wasn't ready, that it wouldn't be fair to bring up old pain. What I really meant was that I didn't know how to start anymore. Starting late feels harder than never starting at all. Another year passed, then another, and the silence settled deeper. Eventually, it felt like the way things had always been. As I grew older, news of my sister reached me indirectly through other people. Someone mentioned a surgery, a move, a grandchild. Each update felt distant, like hearing about someone you once knew in passing. I wondered sometimes if she thought about me. I wondered when she stopped expecting to hear from me. Those thoughts came late at night and disappeared by morning. I told myself wondering was enough. It wasn't, but I didn't know what else to do with it. Yesterday morning, the phone rang while I was clearing dishes from the sink. I almost didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number. The woman on the line said my sister's name and then told me she was gone. I asked a question I already knew the answer to, something about when it happened. She said it was peaceful, which felt like information meant for someone closer than me. After the call ended, the house felt smaller, heavier. There was nothing left to delay or prepare for. Whatever I had been waiting for was over. I spent the rest of the day going through old boxes and drawers. I found a photograph of us as teenagers, standing too close and smiling easily. We looked like people who assumed the future would be generous. I tried to remember the last real conversation we had, not the argument, but something honest and open. I couldn't, and that frightened me more than I expected. Memory fades unevenly, keeping the wrong details sharp. I wondered if she had wanted to talk near the end. That question has no answer now. There's a difference between regret and knowing something can't be repaired. Regret still imagines alternatives and different outcomes. This feels heavier because it accepts the final shape of things. My sister will never hear my voice again. She will never know that I thought about her more than I admitted. I will never know if she would have answered the phone. Time doesn't negotiate, it just keeps moving. At 79, you feel that movement every day. If you're listening to this, I'm not offering advice or instructions. I wouldn't have listened when I was younger either. I'm only describing what it feels like to reach the end with something unfinished. The damage doesn't come from one mistake. It comes from delay. You always think there will be another chance, another moment that makes sense. Sometimes there isn't. People leave while you're still preparing your words. These days I spend a lot of time sitting quietly, watching the light change through the window. The world feels smaller but clearer in some ways. I talk to my sister in my head sometimes, not to ask for forgiveness, just to acknowledge that she was part of my life. I tell her small things that don't matter. Being remembered is a quiet comfort at this age. Being forgotten is a different kind of loss. I don't know how much time I have left, but I know some things don't resolve. They simply end.